Do you think your business is super protected at this moment? What if an unforeseen event, something really crazy, all of a sudden derailed your commercial plans and forced you to slim down your vision, your goals, your staff, and your revenue projections? You might say this is completely fiction. And you know what? This is exactly what the 20,000 companies that go bankrupt every year in the United States said at some point in their evolution. Don't make the same mistake they made. In this video, I'm showing you how to use small business insurance to bankruptcy-proof your company. I'm revealing tips and tricks on how to use small business insurance to buckle up for higher productivity, sales explosion, client retention, and cutthroat competition. The success of Forbes 100 Best Small Companies is proof. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How are you today? I am doing marvelous. I hope you are doing marvelous also. This show is going to be great. The topic is interesting. We are talking about small business insurance. We are talking about how to bankruptcy proof your company so that you can make money over and over and over. We want ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching in the bank accounts, right? Before we start, the Sweetie Kiwi Show is a great show because we have millions of viewers and listeners and fans throughout the world who support us every day. And in every show, we want to recognize some of them. So right now, we give a shout out to Sebastian Henderson in Stansbury Park, Utah. Thank you, Sebastian. Jackie Adams in Timpai, Utah. Thank you, Jackie. And Charlotte Williams in South Ogden in Utah. Thank you, Charlotte. We love you. We love you, Jackie. We love Sebastian. We love your families. This is a great show. Let's just get right into it. First, let me just break down for you what business insurance is, because a lot of people talk about business insurance. They really don't know what it is. Now, business insurance is actually an umbrella term for many types of coverage, right, that a business can buy. So this goes from commercial general liability insurance to errors and omission insurance to professional liability insurance. There are a lot of options you can use to actually shield your business from any sort of major issues, right? Now, some policies are required by law and others are just recommended, right? Depending on the industry you're in, there are some types of insurance that we would recommend for you. It all depends also on the industry, but also the state you're in. By state, I'm not talking about geography here. I'm talking about the operational state your business is currently in. So if you are in the growth phase versus maturity phase or initial phase, your appetite or your needs for risk management and risk mitigation, which is really what insurance is all about, your appetite for those risks will be limited or higher, right? So as a small business owner, insurance coverage is very important because it gives you what? It gives you peace of mind. And you know what? Peace of mind is one of those things you can't really buy. Everything else, you can use your credit card. But it gives you a peace of mind. So if you have insurance coverage, you can actually start devising strategies to make more money, to get market share, to crush the competition, right? Now, the first thing I want to tell you is there are certain criteria that are very helpful when it comes to determining the amount of coverage you need and what kind of business insurance you need, right? So there are a few criteria. For instance, how many employees do you have, right? Have you been in business for a while, or did you just start it? Did you just start your business? If you're a startup, the needs are not the same as if you are an established business. Do you work with full-time internal staff, or do you work with subcontractors? right? Because there you have some kind of the risk analysis, the risk spectrum is different whether or not you work with external staff or internal staff. What do you have in terms of sales? What is your estimated sales, your revenue, your operating margins? Where is your business located, right? Here, in terms of location, we're talking about not just the country, but also the city and the community where you are. So things like demographic patterns, will have an effect upon the sort of insurance you need. And the last thing that you really sort of want to talk about also is, what is your business trade? What kind of specialty are you in? Are you in a niche market, or are you in a general market, right? So, for example, if you are in an open market, in other words, you are in a market where the competition is high, there are certain types of insurance you need, versus if you were operating in a monopoly or a duopoly or oligopoly. Now, monopoly is just a fancy word to describe a market condition where you only have one seller and there are many buyers, right? A duopoly is just when you have two selling to the masses, and oligopoly is a market condition where you have only a few sellers for many buyers. So it is very important for you to really determine that, to know what's important, and to realize that your insurance coverage will depend upon the niche or the field, the sector that you're in. We will be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another edition, to the second section of this wonderful show. I hope that you are finding the content valuable so far. I want to quickly get into, after explaining what business insurance basics are, I want to quickly get into the nitty-gritty. And the nitty-gritty here is, first of all, do you need insurance? Do you need business insurance? And if yes, how much do you need, right? This is very important. Now, if you plan on running a business, then you will need business insurance. There's no question about it. The reason being that, again, business insurance, as any type of insurance, is part of a risk mitigation framework. So if you don't have proper coverage, you might end up having to pay out of pocket for a lot of stuff, including a lawsuit from unhappy clients. And this happen a lot. It happens a lot. You might have to pay out of pocket for property damage, accidents, that kind of stuff. Things that not only are going to crush you financially, but they can also have a deleterious, a negative impact morally, right? Because imagine if you, instead of running your business, you have to leave work and go to court or go to your lawyer's office. This is just a waste of time, and it's just crazy. So insurance helps you kind of cover that. Now, depending on what you do, right, certain clients might not even want to consider you as a business partner if you're not insured. Especially if you're a business where you work on a client's property and you might cause, or your people might cause damage, the clients might want to have proof of insurance, and if the client doesn't require it, chances are your states or your municipality, the city where you work or live, might require legally some kind of business insurance coverage. Things like general liability insurance or workers' compensation insurance, right? Those are legal requirements. Those are regulatory requirements. So you cannot get around them. You have to have them. Now, how can you figure out what kind of business insurance you need? Because this could be very complex and convoluted. So if you want to determine what type of business insurance you need, there are several ways to do this. You can contact an insurance agent, right? You contact an insurance broker and you just explain what you do, your situation to the representative. They are able to tell you, based on the information you provide, what kind of business insurance you need. You can also contact a professional organization you're part of. Right? So if you are in a certain industry and you happen to be part of a professional organization, chances are your rivals or your peers are getting some kind of insurance coverage, and you might want to emulate the type of business insurance that your peers are having. You can ask around. You can ask competitors. You can ask suppliers. You can ask customers. I call that competitive intelligence, right? Gathering intel from your competitors, from your suppliers and customers. Now, this is nothing damaging. This is not a trade secret, right? If you ask nicely, people will give you the info. Your rivals will tell you, listen, this is the type of insurance I'm getting. And you can ask your suppliers, you can ask your customers, they will give it to you. You can also contact the state and revenue department where you live, right? So revenue department, I'm talking about the tax department. The Department of Taxation in the states where you live will give you the info. Sometimes you have to contact also the state department of the states where you live, because the state department is actually the department that handles things like company incorporations, company formation, that kind of stuff, and they are able to tell you based on your industry what type of business insurance you might legally need to have. You can also contact a lawyer who is well versed in your industry. So you have a lot of sources of info that are available to you if you want to dig deeper before buying business insurance. Now, how much does business insurance cost? I talked to you about where you can find out whether you need it or not. Now, how much does it cost? Now, costs vary, right? Like everything else, like individual insurance, there is a host of factors that ultimately drives the cost of business insurance. So if you're starting your business or already running an established business, you would want to know before you buy insurance whether the business insurance is worth the investment. Now, you have to be very creative here in terms of providing the info to your insurance agent. But here are the biggest factors that insurance providers will take into consideration to calculate the cost of premiums. What is your business trades and specialties? Because what they look at the risk profile of your business. What kind of services do you provide? What is your business located? Location is important, right? Location. How many employees do you have, and what types of employees do you have? Now, the insurance company doesn't need to know the specific sort of idiosyncrasies of your employees. In other words, the different profiles of your employees, but they want to have a head count, and they want to have a particular idea of the industry you're in and the location where you operate from. They also want to have your estimated revenue, because of course they want to know if they can they can milk you more, right? If you're making $1 million versus 100,000, chances are they're not going to charge you a lot more. They're not charging you more if you are making only 100 grand. But no, I was just kidding. But most importantly, revenue estimation. Well, I wasn't kidding, really. I think revenue estimation is an important thing for them, because by looking at the amount of money you're bringing in, they can also have an idea of the size of your operations, and the size of your operations will give them ultimately a clear idea of the risks that they are buying from you, the risks they're taking by, underwriting you. So, and there are other things. There are other info that they might need, but this you can ask the agent, and the agent will certainly break it down for you. We will be right back right after this. Welcome back to the Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's biggest infotainment show. Are you still around? Are you around? Are you around? Thank you so much, folks, for joining us right now. If you just join us, we are talking about small business insurance, the wonderful topic. And I'm talking about specifically how you can use small business insurance to buckle up for higher productivity, sales explosion, client retention, and cutthroat competition. And I want to show you how you can model your success after the success of Forbes 100 Best Small Companies. Now, I talked earlier about business insurance basics. I also talked about whether you need business insurance or not and how to find out how much insurance you need to buy. Now, I want to really dig deeper into how much in business insurance do you need and whether or not it is a legal requirement. There are things you can do to find out exactly. Before I dig deeper, if you have a small business, please comment below and give us your feedback, your insight about this interesting topic. Tell us how you are able to get your business insurance, whether or not you need business insurance. Comment below. We want to have as many comments as possible. This is how we are able to grow as a Sweetie Kiwi community. If you love the content so far, we wouldn't mind, it wouldn't hurt to subscribe, right? Please subscribe. We want to have new subscribers, loyal subscribers all the time. We share the content with someone who might enjoy it and appreciate it and also like it. Before we move on, I want to give a big shout out to Christopher Gill in Albany, Vermont. We want to give another wonderful shout out to Elliot Davis in Arlington, Vermont, and Gracie Riley in Barnett, Vermont. We love you. Christopher, Elliot, and Gracie, thank you so much for your support, and we thank all our viewers and listeners in the great state of Vermont and elsewhere. How much business insurance do you need? Now, the amount of business insurance you need really depends on a couple of factors, as I've said before, but now I want to really dig deeper here. I want to break it down. Now, the size of the business. If you have a small business, there's not always a causal relationship between size and insurance. Like, you might have a small business, but if you pull in millions or billions of dollars in, your business insurance might be different from someone who has a small business and is just pulling in $100,000 a year. Right? So the amount of business insurance you need depends on the size of business. But again, keep in mind, size is I would say a subjective matter here. So if you have a small business, you in most cases need a lower coverage. As long as you're not in some kind of crazy industry, crazy quote unquote. But what I mean here is, if you're not in some kind of niche market, for example, if you are a small business, but you are in the, you trade weapons, you sell weapons, the risk is just like through the roof, right? Versus if you sell baby socks, for instance. Don't worry about the correlation between baby socks and weapons, but it's just, my imagination is kind of crazy some days. So the size of your business has an impact. If you have a mature business, the risk is better controlled. The risk is known and evaluated, and the business insurance you need, the policy, the plan you need might be cheaper than if you just have a new business whereby the risk profile of your operations is not known. Where your business is located. If your business is located in the United States, the policy will cost you less, as opposed to your business is located somewhere in a very dangerous zone overseas, right? So even though you are based overseas, or if your headquarters are in the States, but you have a significant set of operations happens elsewhere in a war zone, for example, or close to an area that is demographically or socially unstable, chances are your plan will go up, right? Even within the United States, there are cities that are business friendly, or more business friendly, or more business more attractive to small business owners than others, right? So this will have an effect. This will have an impact on your plan. Now, the industry you're in will have a bigger impact on the amount of amount of premium your insurance company charges you. Some industries are very, very cool, or very, it's the kind of industry where you just relax and just go to work, make money, just bring some cash home, relax, and everything is fine. The world is beautiful, kumbaya, peace and love, blah blah blah, right? That's most of the industries. Now, there are other industries that are a little bit more complicated in terms of the risk profile. Now, earlier I gave the example of arms trade, but this is an extreme example. Let me just give an example that is more standard. For instance, if you are involved in import exports, so you deal with other countries, or you are involved with you are in the medical field and you handle very sensitive, very dangerous, sometimes lethal chemicals, you might be making a lot of money, but this types of activity and this types of industry will pose potentially a higher level of risk than if you were just in the retail industry selling baby socks or adult socks, for that matter, right? So how many employees you have, I said earlier, the many employees is important, but it's also the variety of roles you have. So it's just not only the number, so the quantity, but also the quality. So if, for instance, you are in oil and gas, even if you're a small company, right, and you have only 10 people, the job description for each staffer in your group will be very important for the insurance company, because they want to know exactly how many people you have, but also what exactly each person on your team, each team member does as work, and also your estimated revenue. Now, I want to quickly jump on the legal requirements. Now, if you want to know whether business insurance is a legal requirement, now, like I said, there are many people you can go to, lawyers, you can call your state, you can actually talk to the insurance agent to find out. But the thing is that business insurance legal requirements vary by states in America. So it's worth checking with, your state department to know what your particular state wants. Now, the thing is that as a risk management tool, even if business insurance is not a requirement in your state, it's always a good idea to have one policy on file to help protect your finances, right? This is crazy. I mean, folks, this is really crazy. That it's crazy to imagine that your business can go. You can file for bankruptcy if a customer files a claim against you for alleged damages or negligence, and the judge and the court awards 1 million, or 10 million the court award the person 1 million or $10 million, and because you don't have that cash, you have to file for bankruptcy. It's just crazy. But these things happen every day. If you don't believe it, just read the news. You can see every day. Like I said earlier, you have 20,000 companies that file for bankruptcy every single year. And out of those 20,000, there is a significant portion of them that go really, really haywire because of lawsuit. So you need insurance to protect your personal finances and your business finances. Now, there are a few things that, here are a few examples where business insurance can really help. For example, let's say that you are trying to attract top talent to your team, right? You want to recruit and keep talent. Now, people usually want to work for a company that is insured, right? Because it's just natural. They feel protected by knowing that, okay, I'm working for this company and the company has all the insurance that I need. Okay, everything cool, right? So by having business insurance, you are sending a message to the whole world, but also to the potential employees, because you're telling them, hey, listen, our business is some serious. We are taking business seriously. We take our business seriously, and we take our employees seriously. So if your employees get injured on the job or they cause damage to a client's property, they become a major liability for your small business. But if you have business insurance, guess what? You are covered, right? So because you never know what kind of claims could be filed against your business due to your employees' work. Another thing that is also very important is that if you're trying to find office space, if you rent office space, a lot of landlords, especially in the United States, will require you to have some kind of insurance coverage, right? Because having this kind of coverage will make the owner of the building, the landlord, feel confident that if anything gets damaged, your insurance policy will cover it. You can also get a lot more customers if your business is insured, right? Because especially if you have those sort of this type of industry where you operate as a sole proprietor. In other words, you are a one-person business or a few person businesses. For instance, if you are a landscaper or you are a handyman or you run a business where you work on a client's property, having insurance would allow more customers to be drawn to you, because and by being drawn to you, they can actually hire you for larger or more expensive projects. Again, because what? You have business insurance, and with business insurance, you have peace of mind. You can also get key suppliers quickly. So what? And the thing here is that it also allows you, business insurance allows you to be able to fund your business quickly. So things like operational leases, capital leases, collateralized loans, short-term loans, working capital, those things can be gotten more quickly because the banks or the financial institutions or the financing institution in this case will be more comfortable to work with you. So this is basically in a snapshot the reason why you need to have insurance, business insurance, even though it may not be a requirement in your particular field or state. We'll be right back right after this. Hello, welcome back, folks, to another section of Sweet Kiwi. I hope you're still around. You are loving this show so far. I just want to quickly ask a question to our lovely viewers. What kind of businesses do you think absolutely need insurance, and what types do you think don't need insurance? Put your comments below. Put the answers in the comment section. Share your wealth. Share the intellectual wealth. I meant with other viewers, other members of the Sweetie Kiwi community, and by sharing knowledge, by sharing data, we will be able to grow. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to also share out our data, our content with people who might love it, who might find it useful. I want to talk now about the type of business insurance you need. So basically, I spoke earlier about whether it is a legal requirements. I also spoke about the type of business insurance you might need and whether you need it or not and how much. I spoke about the business insurance basics. Now I want to specifically talk about how business insurance differs, varies based on a few things. One of the things that is also very important here for me to really understand is that based on where you work, for instance, based on whether you work at home, whether you work in a separate office, the kind of services you provide, you might need a different aspect of business. But most importantly, I want to focus on one thing here, which is general liability insurance. Now, general liability insurance is very important. Believe it or not, it is very critical. And I want to break it down in a very clear way. What is general liability insurance? Now, general liability insurance is very simple. Let's say that you are working on a client's on a client's property, for instance, and something happens, you break something or one of your employees breaks something. What general liability insurance does is that it provides protection against lawsuits and damages. So at the very core of it, general liability insurance is a policy that covers, damages that result from third-party accidents and physical injury. So if, I'm giving you an example, let's say you are a roofer or a landscaper. Let's just use the roofer. It's a lot easier. If you are a roofer and, one of your clients says, listen, work you have done is imperfect. One of the roofs you have worked on is leaking. Your policy could cover the cost to repair those leaks. Particularly if furniture happened to be damaged as a result of the leak, you can really use your policy to pay for the cost. Let's have another example. Let's say that you are remodeling your retail shop, right, or your shop in general, and you have a lot of wires hanging around on the floor, right? And you have a customer, because you forget to put a proper sign, sleeping, proper warning signs on the floor, and a customer ends up tripping over one wire. Your general liability coverage can pay for the customer's healthcare bills, and along with any kind of lawsuit that customer may bring against you. So just think of the general liability insurance here as the foundation of your business protection. Think of it as the cornerstone of your risk management program, right? So the needs might be different. The insurance needs might be different based on the industry you're in, based on the products that your products or services you are providing, based on the location of your business. But it's very likely that all businesses need general liability coverage. In addition to that, as I said earlier, you are also keeping your personal finances even secure, and this is very important. I cannot emphasize this enough. Now, talking about general liability insurance, we want to give a shout out to some of our viewers and beautiful viewers and supporters and fans and listeners. Specifically, we have Rylan Harris in Reiner, Virginia. Rylan happens to work in the insurance industry. So Rylan, thanks so much for helping us while we were doing the research for this production. Really appreciate it. We want to give a shout out to Brett Wiley in Powhatan in Virginia. I'm not really sure this is the right pronunciation, but if you are from Powhatan, please drop a comment below. Tell me how to pronounce the city the right way. It's spelled Powhatan. Powhatan. Powhatan or Powhatan, Virginia. And Victoria Burnett, she lives in Natural Bridge, Virginia. I love the city name, Natural Bridge. Fantastic. So one of the things that we're talking about here is general liability insurance allows you to protect your business and your personal finances. So it is important to understand that it protects your business in several ways, because things like repairs can be really expensive depending on the fault, depending on the issue. Right now, it's important though to remember that not everything is covered. So general liability does have its limitation, and the best way to know is to talk to your agent before signing the contractual paperwork, or being very specific with the insurer, with the insurance company, before you even consider their policy, their plans. So things that are never covered in a general liability insurance policy are things like employee injuries and illnesses. That will be part of the health insurance policy of your company. Commercial vehicle accidents. So really, if you have a truck or an 18 wheeler having an accident on the highway, you're not being covered by your general liability insurance. Things like punitive damages. Punitive damages we're preparing another program on that, but this arises out of a legal proceedings where you are found guilty So those are not covered by general liability insurance. Another type of cost that is not covered by general liability insurance is professional mistakes. So if you make a professional mistakes, and we'll talk about that later on, professional mistakes are not covered by general liability insurance. And the last part is intentional mistakes. If you make a boo-boo intentionally because of whatever reasons, and the insurance company is able to determine that, you can say goodbye to the coverage. So these things do not reflect very well on your insurance profile. And also the good thing is that the insurance policy is not covering it, because they don't want you to make mistakes. They don't want people to make mistakes intentionally, right? So this is pretty much it. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to the Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's largest infotainment show, most popular infotainment show. We are still continuing our coverage of a small business insurance. And for those viewers and listeners who just joined, we are talking about how to use small business insurance to buckle up for higher productivity, sales explosion, client retention, and cutthroat competition. We want our viewers and listeners, especially those who are small business owners, to emulate the success of Forbes 100 Best Small Companies. So I want to quickly talk now about, of course, I talked earlier about what general liability insurance doesn't cover. Now I want to really dig deeper into what type of events general liability insurance does cover. It's good to know what kind of events are covered before you sign the paperwork. Now, this is very important, because when we think of small business insurance as a risk management tool, it helps to know what types of risk profiles are covered, so that we can sort of plug in the holes. We can buy additional coverage if needed, because by knowing the list of things that are covered, you can identify those things that are not covered, and you can buy additional insurance, additional coverage to plug the operational risk hole in those areas. So here are a few scenarios to kind of give you a better idea of how general liability insurance works and what they cover. Now, the first one is bodily damage. Right? Bodily damage is an umbrella term that covers a lot of stuff. But let's say you are a general contractor, right? You work on a client's premises, you work at a client's house, and you happen to make a boo-boo. Let's say you happen to make a mistake, right? So you are performing roof repairs. I like the roof repair example, because it's very visual, it's very quick, people can quickly understand it, and most importantly, people can really know how the bodily damage part of insurance, liability insurance works. You are on the second story or the third story roof, you are working away, where suddenly, all of a sudden you have a pile of shingles actually slip off the roof and fall on your clients. Now, your clients, coincidentally, unfortunately, happens to be passing by. Now, the client's fine, everything is fine, but she has to, she has a few issues, and she just want to go to the hospital to get checked out to make sure she's fine, right? So the thing is that the client agrees not to sue you. She says she's okay, but the thing is that her hospital bills comes at $10,000. Now, the job that you're working on is just maybe costing the clients $1,000, but her medical bills amount to $10,000 or 20 grand. As a result, you are ending up with a pretty large medical bill that you are responsible for, right? This is where general liability insurance steps in. So depending on your policy limits, this coverage can cover the cost of your clients, of her medical bills. it can even cover if she needs to do so. But if you're lucky and she decides to say, she's not going to sue you, then everything is fine. But if she decides to sue you, your coverage, your business insurance coverage, can even provide a shield, a financial shield, against the cost of the lawsuit, especially if the client decides to sue you for, pain, suffering, trauma, you name it. So this is why bodily damage is very, very, it's very important to have business insurance, because it provides coverage against bodily damage. Now, we also have property damage. So instead of, if you inflict pain or damage to a person, it's called bodily damage. If you inflict some kind of damage to property, it's called property damage. Let's say, for instance, you have, let's say you have a big cleaning company, and you serve thousands of clients. No, thousands is too much. Let's say you serve hundreds of clients, right? And you have maybe a team of 1,000 employees who go out to clean homes. Now, everything goes fine. You get paid every month. Everything's fine. But if one of your staff members, accidentally uses the wrong kind of cleaner on a client's oak table, for instance, or on a client's fridge, or on a client's veranda, or on a client's, whatever he or she uses, if he or she uses the wrong kind of cleaner on the client's property, the client might call and say, listen, I want you to replace the table, right? Or if the table is very hard to find, or this was custom made, the client might say, this is basically, how much it costs, and I want you to reimburse me. Now, without insurance, if you don't have general liability insurance, you'd be responsible 100% for that bill. And the client could take you to court if you refuse to pay, because again, this is part of the property damage framework. You cause your company, through your employee, caused the damage. It makes sense legally for your company to repair the damage. So the general liability coverage will be able to pay out the cost to your client, even if she decides to sue you for property damage. Another area where business insurance, particularly general liability insurance, can be helpful is reputational damage, right? Reputational damage, it happens more often than people think about, and this is how it works. Let's say that you have performed work, you sign a contract, you signed an SLA, a service level agreement. You have fulfilled your part of the bargain. You've done everything you were supposed to do, right? You delivered the work, you delivered the service, you provided the services, everything is fine. Now the customer says he's not paying you. He's refusing to pay you for your services, right? And the thing is, you're going crazy about it, right? You are very mad about that. Now, you can consider suing him, right? But the thing is that you have to think about your reputation here. If the whole world knows that knows that your customer is awful, but not only that you not only your customer is awful, but you are also awful because you decided to sue them. Now, who sues their customers anyway? It's like suing your doctor, right? Or suing your lawyer. Although sometimes you might want to sue your lawyer. But who sues their customer anyway? It's one customer, right? You can just let it go, or use another sort of more discreet manners, but not sue, not tell the whole world how awful your customer has been to you, right? You go on social media, you go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, and you just rant about your clients. The thing is that if the client ends up seeing the post and decides to sue you for reputational damage, because with action you have to expect reaction, right? If the client sues you for reputational damage, your general liability insurance may cover your legal costs and result in payouts, right? Of course, here we're talking about up to your policy limits. So it is very important to say that it is very important to emphasize that I'm not recommending you ranting about your clients on social media, or posting sort of getting into some kind of back and forth publicly about your clients, about your business dealing. But if that happened, because things happen a lot, life is crazy, right? We live in a world that is globalized and anything can happen. If you have to resort to that last plan of action, it's good to know that reputational damage, damage to your reputation can be covered by general liability insurance. You see, so bodily damage, property damage, and reputational damage are the three things that general liability insurance can cover. And this is a biggie because it adds up to the risk management framework, the solid risk management platform that we want to create around your business, so you can continue making money, you can continue getting market share, and continue always crushing rivals. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of this wonderful show. Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's largest infotainment show, the most popular. I hope you're having fun so far. You are enjoying the show. You are learning something. You are taking notes. And if you are, consider liking this content. Subscribe to our channel to get more and more informative, more and more relevant topics, and more entertaining shows. We also ask you to comment below, give us your thoughts, your insights on today's topic. I want to right now just quickly jump into, I explained earlier how general liability insurance helps you by helping cover bodily damage, property damage, and reputational damage, right? Now let's discuss how much general liability insurance do you need, or does your business need, and how much will it cost, right? But before we just do that, I just want to quickly give a shout out to Jaden Baxter in Rossmore, West Virginia. Jaden, thank you so much for your support. We love you. We love you. We love you. Chris Wall in Matthias, West Virginia. We love you too, Chris. You are wonderful. We love you. We bless your family and your community. Thank you so much. And Mariam Fleming in Hambleton, West Virginia. I love that name, Hambleton. So Mariam, Chris, and Jaden, thank you so much. Now, this is how much general liability insurance you need. It's a tricky answer, right? Because again, as small business insurance in general, it depends on a series of things, right? So if you are working on a big project, for instance, and a customer requests a higher policy limit, then you might need more general liability coverage, right? On the other hand, if you're not working too much on customer sites, or you're not providing services that entail a certain level of risks, then you probably only need a basic amount of coverage here. So one of the things you want to think about to determine how much general liability insurance you need, consider again your company size. Company size is very important again. So the more employees and subcontractors you have, the more liability insurance you may need, right? And this makes sense. There's a causal relationship here, because earlier I was giving the example of having a cleaning company. If you have a cleaning company, the more cleaning staff you have, the more liability insurance you need. So it's perfectly correlated. The type of work you do. So if you perform work or services that exposes you to a lot of risks, for instance, if you have to work on the roof or remove trees or landscaping, or dealing with hazardous substances, chemical substances, or highly regulated products or services, we recommend that you get a higher policy limit, because again, it's all about providing protection to your business. So if you end up causing third-party injuries or damage, the claim payout will probably be higher, which is why, again, you want to get a higher policy limit. Now, how much general liability insurance you need also depends on your state's requirement. Now, some states have general liability insurance requirements for certain industries, right? And these can vary depending on the type of work you do and where you're located, right? So, and this is why one of the things you want to do is contact your state's department or your state taxation department to have an idea of whether or not the authorities requires you to have general liability insurance for your particular work. Now, another thing you want to think into consideration is the project you are working on, right? So if you're working on a pricey project, you need more coverage. If you are performing work for the Pentagon or just as a general government contractor, you need a higher policy limit. It's just a requirement, especially for people who work for the military. I do have a lot of friends in that area. You just need to be ready. You need to have a stable, solid, policy limits, higher policy limit, and solid, just general liability insurance plan in general. So those are the requirements. Now, how much does general liability insurance cost? The thing is that a lot of people ask that question because they want to look into what their rival is doing, what the competitor is doing, and saying, if they are this size and we are this size, then we need maybe the same amount of insurance, of general insurance or of general liability insurance, or maybe less or maybe more, based on, and they're just trying to do some kind of extrapolation. But in reality, there is no one size fits all answer to the question of how much does general liability insurance cost, right? And this could be a little bit frustrating, but let me just give you some criteria to help determine how much you might have to pay for general liability insurance. Again, like I said earlier, it's always good to ask an agent, to contact an agent or contact the insurance company directly, or even better, use an online comparison tool where you just enter your data and they give you some kind of estimate. Now here I'm just providing you with some quick FYI, so you have an idea of what you have to think about. So how much does your general liability insurance plan cost will depend on your business type, your business trade. Type is different from trade. Trade is what you do. The type is what kind of business you are in terms of the legal aspect. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you an LLC, a limited liability company? Are you a partnership? Are you an S corp? Are you a C corp? What kind of business you are? Are you a small business? In the Small Business Administration definition of the term. Do you run a business with fewer than 50 people? Are you a medium-sized business? Are you a large business? That's what business type is, and business trade is the field, is what you provide as services. The number of employees you have, your business location, your payroll. Now, the payroll is very important. Payroll, they're not interested in knowing how much people are making. They're more interested in the mix of the payroll. So, how many people are paid as a subcontractor, and how many people are paid as full-time staff. The specific services that your business provides are also important when it comes to determining the cost. right? So those are the gold standards for determining your policy price. Now, of course, like I said earlier, there could be other factors that would influence how much your general liability insurance will end up costing, which is why you want to contact a specialist, you want to contact an agent or the insurance agency itself, or go online and do some kind of comparison before you contact 1 or 2 or 3 insurers. All right, we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Sweetie Kiwi Show. I am happy to have you here. It's just fantastic to have you. How are you? I hope you are just keeping, being marvelous. Go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka. And let's just keep on this conversation about small business insurance. For those who just joined us, thank you so much for joining the show. This is the Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's biggest infotainment show. And today we are talking about how to use small business insurance to buckle up for higher productivity, sales explosion, client retention, and cutthroat competition. Now, we want to help our viewers and listeners run their businesses better and emulate the success of Forbes 100 Best Small Companies. Now, let's talk we've talked so far about general liability insurance and all the other things that are sort of like, part of it. So we talked about how much it costs, whether it is, how much you need, how much general liability insurance you need, and how much it costs. Now, here, I want to talk about whether you need it or not. Do you really need it? So again, at first I talked about what it covers. Second, I talked about how much liability insurance you need, how much it costs. Here, I want to talk about whether you really need general liability insurance, whether your company needs general liability insurance. That's to say that if it's not a legal requirement, then you might have some flexibility. You might say, listen, I don't think I need this, right? I mean, it's not required. It's just extra cash. I want to save the cash and use the cash for something else. So the question here is, do you really need it? Do you need general liability insurance? The answer is that most likely, you will need general liability insurance, especially if you have a company that deals with the public. Let me repeat that. Most likely, you will need general liability insurance coverage if your company deals with the public. That's the key word here. Dealing with the public, dealing with somebody else. So if you deal with a few people, let's say if you are just an accountant, let's say you're an accountant, you have a little office, you're working from home, and people send you their tax returns, or other companies send you their financial statements, and all you do is you do some kind of compilation or some kind of tax preparation. You don't really need general liability insurance in this case, right? Because you're not dealing with the public. Maybe you are dealing with the public indirectly, but you don't have a direct interaction with the public. You might have an indirect. So, but if you have a job, you work, for instance, at customers' homes or offices, initiatives where you might have some issues with third-party accidents, you need general liability insurance, because this type of insurance can help cover things like property damage, physical injuries, and third-party accidents. Okay, now, like I said before, the law, this might not be, you don't need to have this type of insurance by law. If you work in a company where, if you work in a states where, authorities are okay with people working without having general liability insurance, then it's fine. But remember, if you want to be a government contractor, which is very important, which is an important growth sector for small businesses, according to many reports. Not long ago, there was an article, a very interesting article in the Wall Street Journal, that talked about how small businesses can use the government sector as a foolproof or as a recession-proof sector to make money and generate revenue, even in moments in times of bad, in times of depression, in times of economic inactivity or economic slowdown. They can fall back on the government, because the government normally will never go bankrupt, right? Because they are raising what? Taxes. So, the Wall Street Journal did a very lengthy and very lengthy and detailed article about how the government sector could constitute a good opportunity for all kinds of small businesses. So, if you want to get into the government sector, and you want to have a government contract, you need proof of insurance, and the government wants general liability insurance all the time. They want to have that for you to, especially if you want to secure large government contracts or large government customers. You want proof of insurance, right? Some of the things that happen also is that if you have big companies, you want to work with big companies, those customers are getting very discerning about who to hire. If you want to work with the Amazon or the Microsoft or the Google, the Alphabet of this world, if you don't have insurance coverage, they're not working with you. This is just plain simple. They're not even talking to you because they have a list of requirements for contractors, and you have to check that box. You have to show paperwork. You have to show evidential matter. You have to show proof that, hey, listen, I actually fulfill the requirements here. So if you don't have insurance, you're not even being considered. You're not even getting a foot in the door, right? So how does general liability insurance work? The general liability insurance, it does much more than helping you pay for damages. It also helps you give. I think I want to mention that again. It helps you keep your personal finances safe. It helps you meet legal requirements. It helps you keep your business financial statements safe. It gives you peace of mind, right? And so in some cases, I think in all cases, it just helps you impress customers, especially those big customers who might be doubting or might be on the fence about hiring you. When they hear that you have insurance, they'll be like, okay, we are comfortable with working with this person. We are comfortable working with this company because they are really where we are, and they are the kind of partner we want to have. There is something called general liability certificate, and you will need it. You will need it if you have general liability insurance, or you are required to have one. So the certificate of insurance, it's usually called COI. It provides proof that you and your business have coverage. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said that, big companies and the government, they have a checklist of things, and they want you to check that you have insurance. The way to prove that you have insurance, general liability insurance in this case, is by showing your COI. So the COI, depending on the insurance provider that you select, the COI might be automatically delivered to you. Usually it's electronic delivery. You don't need to get this in the mail. You can get it instantaneously. So basically, as long as you make the first payment, they will send you an email in a PDF document where you can see the conditions, you can see the coverage amounts and that kind of stuff. If they don't send it to you, please request the policy ASAP, because it's more important for you to have it as a business record also. Even if they send it to you, even if it's delivered electronically, you still want to have physical proof just for your own paperwork, right? So this is very, very important. You might want to show this also to potential customers. You might want to show it to employees. You might want to show it to government officials. and all your stakeholders. You also have the other stakeholders, for example, suppliers, your logistics specialists. So everybody involved in your value chain, from suppliers to distributors to customers and regulators, it's always good to show them, even your staff, it's always good to show them that, hey, listen, I am covered, right? Another thing that is also very important is that general liability insurance is a great tool, not only for business management, for risk management, for operational efficiency, but also is a good fiscal strategy, because guess what? It is tax deductible. Isn't that wonderful? I want to hear woohoo, yahoo. It is tax deductible. So the money that's going out, that premiums that you're paying, is just, you can write it off. So you are getting the best of both worlds. You are getting covered and you're paying less taxes. So the IRS considers your policy payments to be a business expense, and the IRS is right. Well, they're not always right, but in this particular case, they are right, because general liability insurance is part of your operations, and as such is an operational expense. And the essence of the very definition of operational expense when it comes to fiscal matters is that it is a business expense. So keep track of all the payments you make towards your policy, because they will be really important at the end of the year or the beginning of the year when you have to file your taxes, because you're going to have to show proof that the payments that you made were indeed for insurance coverage, right? Now, the thing is that, remember that when it comes to taxes or insurance in general, we're not giving, here in this show, in the Sweaty Kiwi Show, we're not giving you specific advice, right? We are a general information program, and we advise you to always hire a professional who is versed in the matter that you are concerned with. In this case, if you're concerned with insurance, talk to an insurance agent or talk to an insurer that will give you a lot more info as it pertains to your particular situation. If you want to know more about tax issues, I would advise you to hire an accountant or a tax professional, an EA, an enrolled agent, or a CPA, a certified public accountant, who would be better suited to help you file your business taxes. That way, you are sure that your general liability policy payments are being counted as deductible, right? This is very important. Now, another thing that is very important to know here is that, by doing all of these things here, you can determine whether or not you are meeting the legal requirements or the operational requirements of the field you're in. All right, we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section in this wonderful program so far. We want to, before we go into, so we've talked about general liability insurance. We've talked about business insurance, small business insurance. Now I want to converse with you about professional liability insurance, which is a totally different thing. Now, before I dig into that, before I really start, I just want to give a shout out to our beautiful and lovely listeners and viewers all over the United States, Canada, and beyond. We want to acknowledge right now Dylan Pittman in Axonia. Is it Axonia? I think it is Axonia. Yeah. We want to acknowledge Dylan Pittman in Axonia, Wisconsin, beautiful state of Wisconsin. Rayleigh Todd in Ridgeway, Wisconsin, and Nancy Perkins in Summit Corners in Wisconsin. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Rayleigh, and thank you, Nancy, for your support and your contribution so far. If you also listening to us right now, you want to contribute a new topic for coverage, you want to be acknowledged in our next shows, please leave a comment below. Tell us what you want us to cover. send us an email, contact us on social media. We are very responsive and we'll get back to you ASAP. What is professional liability insurance? Great question, right? Now, remember earlier I was talking about you need general liability insurance if you have a contact with the public. Now, the same applies the same applies for professional liability insurance. So if your business offers advice or personal services to customers, you may need a professional liability policy, right? Because this is the kind of policy that protects your business if you make mistakes. So basically, this is why this policy is also called errors and omissions. So professional liability insurance is also referred to as an errors and omissions policy. So basically, it covers the costs that are associated with claims or lawsuits of negligence. Whether the negligence is alleged or not doesn't really matter. Let me give you a quick example here. Let's say you're an accountant, right, or a financial advisor, and you need to work with sensitive client information, right? So you need to analyze financial information. You need to construct some projection tables. You need to provide appropriate guidance. Let's say that you make a mistake, and again, this is you slip up, right, and you make a costly error, or you just the client's private information is accidentally linked by your company. The data is accidentally leaked by your company. Professional liability insurance will help cover a lot of costs. So it will help cover legal fees, defense costs, and other awards that the court will grant to the clients. So this is very important, right? So you have the ability to see that. Now, professional liability insurance also has some limitations, right? So anything that is illegal, dishonest, criminal, or malicious isn't covered, because again, you have the concept of intent here. Because a professional liability covers errors and omissions. Now, if you're being dishonest, it's not really an error, right? Because of intent, premeditation. If you do something criminal, you are supposed to know that it is criminal, because you are supposed to know the law. If you do something malicious, you sort of take away the area of errors, the purview, if you will, the purview of errors and omissions. So the professional liability insurance policy will not cover that. Other things that they're not covered by this kind of policy, things like copyright, patent, and trademark infringement. If you have some kind of bodily, if you or somebody else has some kind of bodily injury or physical injury, that's not covered. That's covered by what we talked about earlier. If you have property damage, this is not also covered. So this is kind of really, really important to know here. Now, other things that I just want to quickly get back to the coverage areas, because I think it's important before you think about getting it. You want to have an idea of what it covers exactly. Now, of course, I mentioned the fact that if something is intentionally done and that thing is deleterious, illegal, malicious, it's not covered. But what is exactly covered? So negligence or alleged negligence is covered. Okay, so I talked about lawyers, I talked about accountants, I talked about doctors, that kind of stuff. If you make a mistake in the normal operations of your activities, or in the normal performance of your task, as long as there is no malicious intent, you are covered. Something else that is covered is called libel and slander. For example, let's say you are a graphic designer and somebody hires you to create a website, right, for a new business. So you have to create the logo, you have to create the website, you have to make sure that the website is responsive, so it looks very nice on all kinds of devices, laptop, desktop, phablets, tablets, or mobile device, everything. Now, after a few months, you complete the work, right? You basically submit it, everything is fine. The client pays you. Now, a couple of weeks later, the client calls you and says that the website features improper images, something like some kind of inappropriate images, right? And the business owners, customers have reported, her sites, for instance, to the authorities or to social media, blah, blah, blah. Now, the thing is, you didn't add the images, right? Because you are, as a professional graphic designer, you know that you will never would have added this kind of images. But you're not sure who did, right? But at the end of the day, in this particular case, it doesn't really matter, because the client is suing you for damages to their business, and she wants to get paid. Now, this is where professional liability insurance may cover some attorney costs, some legal costs and payouts, of course, up to your policy limit, right? So this is why it's always important, because again, here we don't have there is no intent, right? You didn't do it, and you can prove that you didn't do it, and the court can determine that you didn't do it. So in libel and slander, you're able to get covered. This is why you always want to make sure that you carefully assess the work you're doing. And if certain things slip away, you can't find them, you can't detect them, at least you're covered, because nobody's perfect. We're all humans, unless you have robots walking around the office or robots start doing stuff. Even robots make mistakes, right? We're not robots, so you are prone to making mistakes. The important thing is the frequency and the amount of mistakes, right? So this is something you want to really think about. We will be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of this beautiful and this wonderful show we call the Sweetie Kiwi Show. If you just joined us, welcome. Here we are talking about how to use small business insurance to buckle up for higher productivity, sales explosion, client retention, and cutthroat competition. I love these terms, cutthroat competition. Woohoo! And we are teaching actually our viewers and millions of small business owners throughout the world how to emulate some of the tips and tricks we are giving them here, how to emulate this to become one of Forbes 100 best small companies. Now, I've been talking, in the last section about professional liability insurance. Now, I want to talk about how much does it cost? How much does professional liability insurance cost? Now, cost considerations are very important, and remember that insurance cost is a business expense. So as a business expense, you want to exercise the same caution and intellectual oversight or intellectual seriousness when assessing whether or not you need this type of professional or this type of cost, right? We have already determined that professional liability insurance is important and will cover you in a lot of stuff as a risk management tool. So I can't give you a universal answer to the cost of professional liability, because this will differ. It will vary from business to business, right? And it also depends on your goals. Different businesses have they have specific goals and objectives, and the exact coverage you need can only be determined by talking to an agent or an insurance company directly. Now, to make sure that you're not overpaying or underpaying for your coverage, you want to make sure you think about things like the industry your business falls under, right? As I said earlier, for other types of insurance, the industry you're in will determine a lot what kind of insurance you need, how much you should pay, what type of coverage you should have. The business trade you're in also will have an impact on the premium payments. The policy limits you pick are also very important, right? They are correlated to the as any type of insurance. The policy limits you pick have an inverse correlation, or inversely correlated to the payments. So the higher the policy limits, the lower the premium, right? Because the policy limit is basically the insurance company's way to protect itself. So if you pick a higher limit, let's say you pick a limit of $500,000 or $1 million, you might be paying less in terms of premium, rather as compared to if you had picked a lower policy limit, right? So this is very important. Your professional experience could also be a determinant in terms of the cost, because if you have 20 years experience or 30 years experience and you are a veteran in the industry, you know what you're doing, you are seen, for the insurance company, you are seen as a low risk, as opposed to if you're just an entry level or you just started 5 years ago, right? So professional experience and length and seniority in the particular trade will actually impact the insurance cost. Now, how much professional liability insurance do you need? Now, similar to cost, the amount of professional liability insurance coverage you need depends on many factors, right? It really depends. I can't give you a one sort of universal answer here, but it depends on a lot of stuff, including the size of your business, whether you're a small business, mid-sized business, or a large business, how many employees you have, whether or not they're full-time or part-time, whether or not you have subcontractors, what kind of a business location you operate from, the types of services that your business provides. All those are very important, right? And for instance, think about attorneys. Now, attorneys need professional liability insurance because depending on the trade they're in, depending on the clients they're serving, they might be exposed to more risks than other businesses. Attorneys, like lawyers, spend a lot of time defending clients in court, right? So say for instance, if you are an attorney and you omit important evidence or facts in court, right, you may become defendant yourself and be sued for negligence. So you need to have extensive professional liability insurance than other businesses. The same is true for medical practitioners, so healthcare specialists, right? So the best way here, again, we're not giving professional advice, we're not giving personal advice, we're not giving any kind of advice. We are a general information program that tries to educate the public by giving them info that they would need if they were to go and talk specifically about their case to a specialist. So in this case, I would recommend that you call an insurance company or call a licensed insurance agent and have a deeper conversation with him or her about your professional liability insurance requirements. All right, we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are doing fantastic. I hope you are doing marvelous right now. I want to give a wonderful shout out to our beautiful and lovely viewers and listeners and fans all over the world. Specifically today, I want to remember Rice Bailey in Vancouver, that's British Columbia, Canada. We love you, Grace and your family. I want to give a quick shout out to Jean John in Victoria, also in the beautiful province of BC, British Columbia. And want to give a shout out to Eve Booth in Abbotsford in British Columbia, Canada. Thank you so much for all our Canadian viewers and listeners. We really appreciate all the efforts, all the things you're doing to help us out. Thank you so much. I want to quickly just, before ending this show here, I just want to quickly talk about whether or not professional liability insurance is tax deductible. But before I even talk about that, I want to quickly ask our viewers and listeners to give us, especially those who are business owners, to give us their opinion about professional liability insurance. Comment below. Tell us, in your trade, do you have professional liability coverage? If so, have you run in trouble? Have you had to use it? Give us your comments. Give us your insight. We want to share the intellectual wealth here. We want the Sweetie Kiwi community to learn and benefits from each other's feedback or insights, this kind of stuff. So comment below if you happen to love the comments. If you believe this is adding value to your life, to your business, consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done so. Like this show, share with other people, do all kinds of other stuff that will increase your karma. So to answer the question about professional liability insurance being tax deductible, of course it is deductible. This is similar to what I said earlier about general liability insurance, right? The IRS categorizes insurance policy premiums as business expenses in general. So you can certainly deduct the cost of professional liability insurance payments on your income tax return. Of course, it's always important to reach out to an accountant or a EA, an enrolled agent or a CPA, just a tax professional in general, to ensure that your taxes are filed correctly. But it is clear that yes, you can really sort of deduct that. So it's not really a cost, right? It becomes more of a win-win situation for you, operationally speaking, because you are covering your back by buying insurance, but you are also lowering your tax obligations, your tax debts, by deducting it. So it's just a win-win. I have another thing I want to cover here is whether or not the professional liability insurance is the term professional liability is used interchangeably with another term, errors and omissions. Right now, it is important to say that overall, both terms are similar overall. So if you go somewhere and somebody's talking to you about professional liability, know that it is errors and omissions and vice versa. However, there are subtle and important differences that you need to know about. Now, I'm not going to go in details here because that's the job of the agent you'll be talking to, the agent who will know more about your business. But let us just say that it depends on the states where you operate from. It depends on whether or not it is a legal requirement in the trade that you are currently in. It also depends on whether the mistakes and errors were made by your customers or your employees. It also depends on the involvement of the clients, whether it is a 100% guilty sort of scenario or it is a 50-50. So it is very important, and you want to talk to your insurer to make sure that if you're covered for professional liability, they need to define for you what errors and omissions means, whether you need to meet a certain threshold to get the coverage of professional liability, and whether or not it's the same thing as EO, errors and omissions. The one thing that I want to emphasize here is that regardless of what the insurer tells you, know that anything malicious, illegal, intentional will not be covered. As long as there is an element of intention, an element of premeditation in the act or in the events being covered, or if you have a hint, a veneer of premeditation, in the events being considered for coverage, you're not gonna win. So you will not be covered. If you do it intentionally, you're not being covered. The thing is that, do you need professional liability insurance? Now, it is the same thing as, all the other types of insurance we talked about, right? Professional liability insurance protects your business if you or your employees make mistakes during the course of the work. So this is one reason why a lot of business owners want to buy that type of insurance, because the coverage basically acts as a bulwark. It works as a safeguard against expensive claims that may be filed against your business if you make mistakes or you are guilty of negligence, right? Is it required by law? Not really. Some states might require it, but overall, you're not required to have that. Earlier I said that lawyers would want to have that because, laws are just, law practice can be a very hectic industry and people are prone to errors. So it's important to cover your back. But overall, it's not really a requirement. One thing you want to do to just make sure is contact your state authorities to have more info about that, and they can tell you based on the field you're in, based on the industry you're in, and based on your experience, your seniority in the industry, whether or not you need professional liability insurance. All right, we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks. We are ready to wrap up today's conversation. It's been a wonderful conversation. I just want to quickly wrap this up and say that today's discussion was about how to use small business insurance, all kinds of business insurance, right? We're talking about professional liability insurance, general liability insurance, just regular insurance, how to use that kind of insurance to buckle up for higher productivity, sales explosion, client retention, and cutthroat competition. We are trying to make sure that our viewers and listeners, especially those who are small business owners, are able to use business insurance to hedge against risk and make more money, more ka-ching, 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 and gain market share and crush rivals. So today we talked about business insurance basics, whether you need business insurance. If yes, how much business insurance do you need in terms of the legal requirements in the states where you operate from? What type of business insurance do you need? What is general liability insurance and whether what it covers, whether you need it or not, how much it costs. We also talked about professional liability insurance, how much it costs and whether you need it or not. This is about it. Now, I want to give you a call to action. It is very important because I believe that today's content was relevant to you as a small business owner, but information is power. But if you don't act on the info, if you don't make a decision, if you don't decide to start acting, nothing will happen. So today I want you to do 5 quick things. Determine what kind of insurance coverage you need. Make sure you determine this today. And it's very easy based on, again, your industry and what your competitors are doing. And if you have experience, you probably know already what kind of coverage you need, because every business has its own unique risks and therefore unique insurance needs, right? Start paying attention to important coverage options. Look for discount opportunities. Contact an agent today. Start today. Contact a small business insurance agent today. Make sure you have a licensed agent. Review if you're currently insured on the business side. I want you to review and update your coverage now. And do this every year, 1 year from now. So this is the 5 call to actions today. Things that you need to do, the 5 call to action items today, things that you need to do. Now, you want to stick around for the pro tip, because I have a pro tip that you will like. And is it time to give the pro tip now? Or I can? No? We'll be right back right after this. It's great to have you. I'm doing fantastic. I'm very happy that you are sticking around. Here is a pro tip. Start with general liability coverage. Right? Have commercial property insurance. That's a must-have. And once you start with the general liability coverage, think about adding disability insurance as time goes on. Remember, workers' compensation insurance is required. So if you have general liability, you have commercial property, you have workers' comp and disability insurance, you are set. Now, if you want, you can go a little further and do things the way the Fortune 500 companies do it. You can ask for a business owner's policy. Now, this is this is more like an umbrella, a bundle package that combines commercial insurance coverages such as general liability and property insurance coverage. So if you ask for a business owner policy, you have several policies under one. The last pro tip here, which is really important, you want to cover business interruption. And this is called business interruption insurance. This is additional coverage to commercial property insurance. And what it does is it protects your business against loss of income if there's any issue that disrupts operation at your normal location. And this could be due to what? It could be due to fire. It could be due to some kind of weather events. This business interruption operation. Let's start again. Business interruption insurance allows you to be covered and get money if there is some unforeseen event at a business partner's location, for instance, and this impacts your productivity. All right, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for sticking around. I love you, and I will see you next.